This is the time to stand up now. We can't carry on like this.
Very good afternoon to all of you. Just press some buttons and get myself right. Before I forget, first of all, an invite to all of you. I mentioned it last week and I've had some messages with some people, but I will be at the Blue Tiffin later on this afternoon, probably about 4 o'clock or so. So if anyone wants to come and spend whatever the buffet costs, it's very good value. And I will be eating there and drinking there, and some other friends will be eating and drinking there. So you are all more than welcome. We'll try and get them to sit, as many of us as close together as possible. I'm sure Jack Hackey and the lads will solve that for us. So yes, first of all, an invitation. You're more than welcome. It'd be good to see you in real life rather than an avatar on a screen next to me. Okay, first things first, we have what we have achieved should not be underestimated. We have helped take out 2 successive Oldham Council leaders. We've taken on the entire machinery of the Labour Party. We've taken on Greater Manchester Police. We've taken on the mainstream media. And we've taken on the cartels. And despite the combined might, as I have been advocating from the beginning, if we have such a thing as a silver bullet, that silver bullet is the ballot box and our vote. So, AROOJ Shah went last night, and let me share with you the circumstances under how she went. It's poor form for anyone to turn up late to the count. It just is. Warren's not here at the moment. Warren was banned. Oh, by the way, Warren was banned from the count whilst Irish Imi was allowed in. A former Oldham councillor was banned by the council from the count, whilst a convicted heroin dealer who helped Dale Cregan, who murdered an Oldham police officer, was allowed in. So, if anything demonstrates how messed up our town is, I think that is it. An 80-year-old pensioner was banned from the count, a former councillor, whilst a convicted heroin dealing getaway driver was allowed into the count. So, it's bad form. It's usually bad form to arrive late. AROOJ Shah arrived very late. She arrived very late. She arrived very late. Sorry, my phone's going off with latest gossip on the Labour Party goings on. She arrived very late. I think about 11:30. And she arrived with Jim McMahon. And she headed straight to her office. And the instructions to AROOJ Shah were to come out only if we know you've won. Because what happens is they have these validations, the list, they pile up the votes first. And it's usually a rough, but, you know, a rough guess. But accurate. In the scheme of things, it's accurate. You can usually tell when the votes are piled up. And she'd been told she'd won. She'd been told she'd won by 60 votes. So down she marches, with Jim McMahon in tow, shaking hands with the other Labour Party candidates, thinking they're going through the motions. The votes get counted. She'd lost by what? 91? 92? I'll tell you now. She got 1,101 votes. And Robert got 1,197 votes. 96 votes. She'd lost by 96 votes. And there was complete shock waves sent across the Labour Party because they'd thought they'd won. They thought they kept her in. And she demanded a recount. Now Lewis Quigg, the Conservative, you know, he's the heavyweight. He's got in now. No messing Lewis. Like, no. The protocol is a recount is anything under 50. So anything under 50 is genuinely what the protocol is. The established pattern in these sorts of elections is anything under 50 votes is a recount. Dirty Harry Caffrell, the backdoor chief executive, decided he was going to allow the recount. Sweat pouring down his face. And when the recount came up with the same result, Lewis could be heard screaming something about sending him back to Blackburn. So that was AROOJ Shah, and Jim was dumbfounded in the back. And AROOJ Shah found herself on the council floor. Remember, Sean Fielding ran away and left. And the only reason AROOJ Shah was there was because she'd won, or she thought she'd won. So she finds herself facing the media, and some of those images and photos, they're epic. She's in shell shock, isn't she? Absolute shock. And of course, in predictable style, it was the actions of the far right, the racists and the misogynists. AROOJ Shah actually increased her vote. More people voted for her this time than last time. Remember, the entire machinery of the Labour Party, the national machinery of the Labour Party, was deployed into Chadderton South to fight Bobby Barnes, a gentle soul, I think it's clear. Anyone who's met him. And his core team of 2 or 3 Conservative activists working with him. On the council floor at the time, and again, I've never heard anything like this, as well as Jim McMahon deployed onto the floor of the Civic Centre, there was Debbie Abrahams, and there was Angela Rayner. This was a genuine clash of the Titans. Clash of the Titans? Well, they were the Titans. It was genuinely a David and Goliath moment. In fact, if Ali Akbar's here, he should have the Bobby Barnes with the stone as David. It was genuinely David and Goliath. David not only faced Goliath, he was facing Medusa at the same time. I know I'm mixing things up, but you know what I mean. So she got ousted, kicked out. And the Labour Party were in a huddle. The remaining councillors were in a huddle, working out who's next. Who's next? Dr. Chauhan. You don't fancy it, do you, Dr. C? I'm only going through the heavyweights who should have stepped forward. Dr. Chauhan doesn't fancy it. Who in the right mind with aspirations of an MP position somewhere would want to get took out by the rabble? So Dr. Chauhan doesn't fancy it. Oh, how could I forget? How could I forget? Throughout the day, they were driving around all of Oldham. In South Chadderton, McMAHON was there with his microphone in a car. AROOJ Shah was there in her microphone in a car. There were, this is the sophisticated, this is what it ended up like. The sophisticated election campaign of the Labour Party resorted to a man nibbling on his samosas and screaming through a microphone, "Go out and vote AROOJ Shah. Send a message to Boris Johnson." We spent the last 3 years educating our townsfolk. Our townsfolk now know the difference between a local election and a national election, and why you should hold local politicians to account in a separate way. They're not so easily manipulated. 2-for-1 samosas at 8:30 at night. My friend Moffizzle, who's put out a samosa warning, I think, yesterday or this morning, was seeing AROOJ Shah running up and down the streets of Fieldsney Road, knocking on doors, trying to get people out to vote for her. So she's gone, yep. And within minutes of her going, they gathered round the Labour Party sort of, impromptu meetings. You've got Dr. Chauhan, Amanda Chadderton, Marie Bashforth, who survived by a whisker. We'll get her next time, Gary. Don't worry. We'll get her next time, along with Barrelgate, the bootlegger. They gathered round, having a little, impromptu meeting. And it emerges that Amanda Chadderton fancies it, because the white Labour councillors want Amanda Chadderton. She scraped through last year. But Amanda, and I'm all right with this. I said so, I think in the run-up, I was clear. I don't buy into this. You've got to live in the ward to represent the ward. You've got to know your ward to represent the ward. But I don't buy into the live, I think it's just bringing politics down to a more basic level. I think it's unnecessary. So I don't buy into that you need to live in a ward to represent a ward. I didn't live on Holt's Village when I worked on Holt's Village. But sure as hell made a difference when I worked there. So I don't buy into that. But there's got to be a line. You've got to surely live in the town you're the leader of the council of. Surely you have to live in the town. So the question that none of the fake Liberal reporters are willing to ask Amanda Chadderton, which I am asking, and I encourage all of you to go on Twitter, those of you who are Twitter or Facebook, to the Oldham pages that I'm all banned from, ask the question. I think it's a legitimate question. Ask Amanda Chadderton, can you confirm that you actually live in this town and have been living in this town throughout the period you have been a councillor for Oldham? It's a simple question. Can you confirm you live in the town? And how long have you lived in the town? Because the leader of Oldham Council surely has to live in the town. I don't care if you live in Saddleworth, for sure. Got it, Grinnickers? No difference to me. Werneth, Westwood? Chadderton, Coldust? You've got to live in the town. So Amanda Chadderton, do you live in the town? It's a yes or a no. Or is the Labour Party about to appoint an individual who doesn't live in the town to lead the council? You've already got Dirty Harry, who wouldn't know one end of our town from another. And now it looks like you've got Amanda Chadderton lining up with question marks over where she lives. The next one. So the thing is, if Amanda Chadderton is selected leader, there's an obvious repercussion in the power dynamics of this town. She won't be instructed by Jim McMahon, and she, in Royton South, is not dependent in any way on the cartels. She can eat her sausage roll and not care whether it's halal. So there's immediately a, the empire, the emperor, Brother Jamal is desperately looking round for another proxy through which he can continue to control the council. He's looking, so just bring this mic a bit lower. He's looking desperately for someone else through which he can run the council. Dr. C doesn't fancy it. Abdul Jabbar, McMahon's right-hand man in Coldust, senior figure in the OBA-controlled ward. That, by the way, took a hammer in as well. McMahon looks towards Jabber. You see the thing? Come on, Jabber. Abdul Jabbar. You're going to get that tongue from out between McMahon's butt cheeks and find a voice of your own? Is he bugger? But Jabbar doesn't fancy it. And you know why Jabbar doesn't fancy it? Because as we showed on Thursday night, we took out a senior figure in the OBA cartel in Abdul Malik. There was an anti-cartel alliance between Bangladeshis and working class white people that carried Montaz over the line. And if Jabbar puts himself as leader, the number of skeletons he has, forget a weekly Sunday night transmission, we'll go twice a week, we'll go 3 times a week. It'd be like Coronation Street. So Jabbar doesn't fancy it. Although he's thinking about it, in typical Jabbar style, he's thinking about it. Come on, Jabbar. 25 years a councillor, in charge of the finances. Either step forward and throw your hat in, or it's time you resigned, isn't it? We would have so much fun if Abdul Jabbar was leader of Oldham Council. And I guarantee you, we would take him out next May. Whatever comes of the other two Labour candidates, we would take Jabbar out. So we get to the next one. Shahid MUSHTAQ. AROOJ, you okay, AROOJ? AROOJ, are they hurting you, AROOJ? Ooh, AROOJ, I'll get my brother Tahir on him again. Ooh, yes, Neil Wilby will sort it, AROOJ. AROOJ, oh, they're saying nasty things about you, AROOJ. We did indeed do fantastic. We did indeed do fantastic. So Mr. MUSHTAQ, who fancies himself with his shiny shoots and his business deals, he phones around and sends text messages because he's Jim's last hope. AROOJ, is AROOJ calling you back, mate? Has he responded to your messages? It's not looking good for Shahid MUSHTAQ. And as Kaiser's now saying, what we're about to have is the heavyweight AMANDA CHADDERTON become the leader of Oldham Council. And this, to all of the information I have, is a woman who does not live in the town. She just uses an address and pretends to live in the town. Start as we mean to go on, Amanda. And anyone who's seen Amanda's performances in the council chamber, oh, we will have so much fun with Amanda. And those of you who don't know Amanda, you know what Amanda's knockout position for all of you is, or should be? It isn't just her role in supporting the cover-up of the grooming and gang rape of our town's children. This is a woman whose position on Brexit, after we voted out, was, you're a bunch of fickos, and she'd have us back in. She knows better. She indeed is that. So that was what we're up to. It looks like the next leader of Oldham Council is so scared of us, she won't even live in the town she represents. Or she thinks so little of the town she takes a massive wage from that she doesn't live here. For those who don't know, Amanda Chadderton's had a child. Her partner is Rosa Battle. Rosa Battle is the daughter, I think, Jim Battle, the veteran Labour Party ex-councillor in Manchester, and they live Manchester way. They're a couple who are raising a child, and I understand that completely. But Amanda, you're raising your child in Oldham. Surely you've got to put, how can you want to lead a town that you're not prepared to raise your child in? How can you want to lead a town but you're not prepared to live in? Before we carry on, there is indeed a crowdfunder up. There is no transmission tonight, whoever asked me. Sorry, I am going for a meal with people, so you're all more than welcome to join me at the Blue Tiffin around 4 o'clock. There is no transmission on tonight, and the Sunday night transmissions are done, I think, as far as I'm concerned. We've got a crowdfunder. It's at 2,800. The target was 3,500. I'm not sure we'll hit it or not. We've got 3 days. We're into our last 3 days to raise last of that. And if we did hit it, the aim was we would do a once in a month transmission and a newsletter. I simply can't afford to continue like this. Is the bottom line, unfortunately, sadly. It cost me £3,500 just in overheads for the year. And that's without me earning a single penny from any of it. So the idea of a weekly transmission is, even if we raise the £3,500, is not possible, I'm afraid. I have subscribers, and I'll put up a subscription thing again, depending on how we move forward. So if my subscribers bear with me for a couple of weeks, we'll see how much money we raise, and we'll see what the world looks like. And I'm just looking at the screen in that direction. I think it says 92 supporters, and I think about 60 of you are subscribed to the ghost site anyway. So we'll work something out, I am sure. But in the meantime, please share this transmission if you find taking value in it. Like and share, and we'll see. This is what the local press had to say. The BBC, Oldham leader loses seat as Labour hold Greater Manchester councils. So we bucked the trend, really, by taking her out. Here we go. Read the first paragraph. Labour's AROOJ Shah, who became the North of England's first female Muslim council leader. So there you go. They called me a racist and a misogynist for describing her as the first female Muslim council leader. Yet here are the BBC doing it, and of course I only described her this way after the local media and the national media had already described her this way. So she was happy to be described that way when it suited her. But when I described her that way, I was a racist, I was a misogynist. Well, here we go. Despite the loss, Oldham will remain a Labour-run council. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. National press. Oldham Times. Council leader AROOJ Shah reacts to losing a seat. Well, actually, you know what? She's not the council leader, is she? She's a former council leader. She's gone. Imogen Clyde Smith. One of the South Manchester vermin. Labour leader AROOJ Shah spoken out. I don't think there's anything more I could have done. I spoke to more than 2,000 people. I did my absolute best. You did your absolute best to win an election, but as the people of South Chadderton will tell you, you did bugger all for them for the 4 years you were their councillor. You just used them to elevate yourself and your career. And turning up on the doorsteps in the lead up to an election, asking for votes without having served them beforehand, well, there's only going to be one outcome. She claims she fought a really positive campaign. You'll remember how her childhood friend, in the lead up to the election, made multiple references to Robert Barnes as a nonce and linked him with Jimmy Savile. So she's claiming she fought a really positive campaign. You'll also remember how the last leaflet she put out was a personal attack on me, with a whole host of malicious lies and proven, falsehoods, smears. Didn't work, did it, AROOJ? The general public was disengaged in politics and democracy, and for me, engaging the public is more important than anything else. And I think that politicians should conduct themselves in a professional way, says the woman who likes and retweets Neil Wilby's posts. Yeah, I agree with that. It was a personal campaign. They dehumanized me completely. My mum was horrified and scared for my well-being. This is the first election I've ever been to where I haven't been able to bring a member of my family, and that's because I didn't want them to experience anything negative. Gary's here, I think. Gary will share with you what Labour supporters did to Robert Barnes as news started coming out that he'd won and defeated her. She reckons she treats people with respect, including the opposition, and they retaliated in a negative way. Now, what had happened was she thought she'd done a deal with Sheldon, the former Conservative leader, whether he remains leader, I'm waiting to hear. She claims that she'd done a deal. Hoban was there. The Lib Dems were there. That photograph where they're all together with that pledge. And she was hoping that would prevent us from campaigning and distance the other political parties. He turned up, as my friend Moyib told me, he turned up in his drop-top Bentley. Who on earth turns up? Labour Party through and through. Labour Party, former drug dealer, spent most of his adult life in prison. And I'm hearing he turns up in a drop-top Bentley. Make it easy for the megaphones, I suppose. She is really disappointed by leaflets allegedly posted in Chadderton South by the Conservatives. I posted the leaflets. I took pictures of myself posting the leaflets. I posted the leaflets at AROOJ SHAH. I put my name on the leaflets. Apparently my leaflets were defamatory and malicious. Will sue me. If there's anything untrue in those leaflets, sue me. If there's anything malicious in those leaflets, go to the police. Oh, you've been to the police already. And by the time they charged me and put me, made me enter a plea and went to a bloody court hearing after another court hearing, what happened? The police had to drop the charges because they made everything up, and AROOJ SHAH refused to face me in court. So if the malicious go to the police, it's the defamatory sue me. The author of the leaflets declined to comment on the leaflets. I didn't decline to comment, Imogen. I said, come and ask me to my face and see what I do. Bring Erin Lyons, bring all of them. Come on, every one of you, to my face, or I'll come to the Bolton Times. The Bolton Times, the Oldham Times office is in Bolton. Come on. You call me a child sex offender, you stupid cow. You and your mates. Come on. Yeah. The Oldham Chronicle is actually worse. Oldham now looking for a new council leader, plus the full local election results. Try and find a nice picture of her. With the departure of former Oldham Council leader AROOJ SHAH from the Chadderton South ward last night, a seat won by Conservative candidate Robert Barnes with a margin of 96 votes, a new leader must be selected. Why doesn't it say she lost? See? This is the second consecutive year that a Oldham Labour Council leader was ousted at the local elections. Why don't they ask why? Thank you. That's what happened, wasn't it? That's what they did. Councillor Shah's result was a major blow for the ruling Labour Party on an otherwise positive night. How was it an otherwise overall positive night? They lost 6 seats. Yes, they gained one back in the Cartel, now a re-established Cartel-controlled Medlock Vale, where they took both seats. But they lost 6 seats. How can losing 6 seats and having the majority go down to 5 be ever considered an otherwise positive night? Overall, the turnout across Oldham was 32.91%, which was higher than the number of other Greater Manchester boroughs. Let's spin it. It was lower than last year. So there you have it. That's what's took place so far. You've now got MUSHTAQ and Chadderton. McMAHON's MUSHTAQ versus... Shit, I'll have to move back to Oldham. Amanda Chatterton. Surely she can't, can she? You can't raise your child in Manchester and become leader of Oldham Council. You should send your child to school, nursery provision, the doctors, like the rest of us, the dentists. Use the local parks, shopping spindles. Well done. Well done to the Fails of Independence. They now have 5 of 6. The Conservatives gained. Royton North they took. As well as Robert. Lewis Quigg is now a councillor. Gary missed out by the smallest of margins in Royton South. Tom Lord missed out by the smallest of margins in St James. And I want to bring up the St James result. I just want to bring this up so you can see the stupidity of what's going on. This is the side-to-side results here. Here's St. James. This year on the left. I'm just scrolling to last year. Oldham Council have took it off the web page and presented it in a different way, but it's still up on Wikipedia. Tom Lord, the Conservative candidate, got 807 votes. Leanne Munro, the Delft-based Labour candidate, got 866. It was a 51 majority. Last year, Amoy Crooks, nice woman, nothing against her, like Amoy. My favourite of all the Proud of Oldham lot, if you ask me. But this is the stupidity of what's going on in this town. Last year, Amoy only got 285 votes. This year, she got 322 votes. Those of you who voted for Amoy, or by Amoy standing, or Proud of Oldham standing, putting a candidate there, by Proud of Oldham and Saddleworth putting a candidate there, cost Tom Lord a seat and saved Labour a seat. So Proud of Oldham and Saddleworth worked hand in fist, hand in glove with the Labour Party and helped deliver a Labour Party candidate in St. James. Paul Errock, Debbie Barrett-Cole and their party helped deliver because they knew from the 285 votes from the year before, Amoy had no chance. And they also knew what a big difference 285 votes would make in such a tight ward. They knew exactly what they were doing. They knew exactly what they were doing. Which brings me to Royton South. Where Gary stood, and I'll just bring this back up on my end. Just give me 1 second. Here's Royton South. 967 Gary, 1039 Marie Bashford. Heavyweight established councillor with a husband, tag team. 60 votes in it. $70 votes in it. 70 votes in it. Yeah. 72 votes in it. Anthony Prince stands every year, gets about 100 votes. You can see he got 103 votes this time. Last time, he got 101 votes. Oldham Heart put a candidate there. No idea why Oldham Heart continue to do this, but they do. Last year, the Northern Heart, Oldham Hearts are, Anne Taylor got 147 votes. This year, Anne Taylor got 67 votes. Do you see? 2 seats there. We could have won and we should have won. We should have took 2 seats. We should have took if people put their egos to one side. If they'd put their egos to one side, 5 would have become 3. And I know Kaiser's here, so I'll bring up Medlock Vale. The 2 Labour Party candidates got over 2,000 each, smashed it. Mark Birchall got 604, Kaiser got 670. Now imagine what could have happened if they'd worked together. Medlock Vale is now once again firmly in the hands of the cartel, and it will remain so. People of Oldham had a once in a generation, once in a lifetime opportunity. And Proud of Oldham and Saddleworth couldn't bring themselves to work in partnership with a man who they claim is their friend, or claimed is their friend, or was their friend. But at the very least, it should have been a majority of 3, not 5. But I take comfort in that. I take comfort in that. Some practicalities. Moving on, some practicalities. That's all right. I hope to be done in 10 minutes or so. If people are still watching. Yep, I'm just looking at my stream. Yep, you're all still here, or most of you are still here. When the Conservatives, who are, by the way, meeting, I think, tomorrow as well. Yesterday, I'm not sure, to decide who leads them and who's their deputy. Hopefully Sheldon gets shown the door and someone takes over with a bit of backbone. Of the 9 councillors I see around them, I'd give it to Dave Arnott. And I've never met Dave. Oh, I'll show you what she did. I'll show you what she did in a minute. What? Yeah, sorry, I've lost my trail of thought, but yes, Shaw. I was asked about Shaw. So what will become of Proud of Oldham and Saddleworth? In the Saddleworth areas where they ran, they got nothing. They came, I think in one of them they finished behind Helen Bishop. I'd call it a day if I finished behind Helen Bishop in anything. But in one of the Saddleworth wards, they finished behind Helen Bishop. In Saddleworth Western Lees, they lost by over 200. Paul Shilton lost by over 200. And I'll explain why he lost by over 200. It's because he didn't know what he was doing. The Lib Dems run a very effective and efficient campaign. They got the marked registers out. They looked to see who voted last time. They looked to see who the Conservative voters were. They looked to see who the Labour voters were. They targeted them. They wrote letters to them. They ran an effective, sophisticated, efficient campaign. And so, Paul Shilton is gone. Will he come back next year on the Proud of Oldham and Saddleworth? I'll get the floor wiped with him if he does, because it's an all-out, and all 3 Lib Dems will be out. Sam Al-Hamdani, I don't like the lad. But it's a bloody effective and efficient and, it's good at what he does. He runs a tight ship. He's going to get in. Kenyon is going to get in. And this lady who they've just elected, and just give me a second, I'll bring it up. Alicia Marland. She'll get in. She'll get in. Here we go. I'll bring it up. I'll show you. Paul Shilton increased his share of the vote from 933 to 1102. It would have got him over the line, because last year Mark Kenyon only got 975, but they knew exactly what they were doing and they knew what they had to do. And they smashed it with 1,379. Massive mandate. Absolutely massive mandate in that ward. And look where the votes came from. The Conservative vote halved, 631 to 303. So those stayed at home or switched to the Lib Dems. And the Labour vote, from 731, Labour put up an Asian candidate who was never going to do anything there. 407. So Labour and Conservative lost a share of the vote. And whilst Paul Shilton picked up some of those voters, the Lib Dems picked up more. And the reason why the Lib Dems managed to pick more of those voters up is because they had all the information. They had the intelligence. They weren't organising, let's have a band in a pub in Upper Mill. They were sat in rooms and had all of the intelligence of who those exact voters were and how to target them. It's called experience. Sure, he did well. Mark Hinds did well. I saw him pounding up and down the streets of Shaw. 574 votes. This time he got 928. He nearly doubled. The Lib Dem vote hardly changed. Howard Sykes got in with 1,191. Hazel Gloucester got in with 1,030. So, you know, you'd expect that. Howard Sykes to get, you know, being who he is, to get 150 votes more than Hazel. But look how close he got. And you know what? He got close because, one, the Conservatives didn't put a candidate there. So the Conservatives lent Mark his vote, their vote. But you know why you came up short, Mark? You came up short because you're wearing the colours of a bunch of loons. The ego of Eric. And gobshite's the right word, I think, Tracy. They're costing you votes, mate. They've got a party that doesn't even recognise Shaw or Crompton. Look what the Failsworth Independents have done. I know Shaw. It's distinct in its character. They see themselves as separate. Aligned but separate. The people of Shaw see what the council have done in ruining their town centre, in destroying their green belt, in how they have fewer resources than elsewhere compared to what they put in. The narrative for a Shaw Independence or a Shaw and Crompton Independence Party is equally strong in Shaw and Crompton as it is in Failsworth. You're not a stupid man, Mark. What's stopping you? Did Paul Errott come and knock on any doors with you? Did any of them come and campaign for you? Did someone pick up the marked registers and make sense of which doors to knock for you or not? No. You did it all on your own, mate. Give me a call. Come and help you. I don't want anything, but I'll help you set up the Shaw and Crompton Independence Party. And you set up the Shaw and Crompton Independence Party and get it running this side of summer. I reckon you clean up. You'll take 2 seats. At least. The Lib Dems are just treading water there. They're not doing anything to support or safeguard or promote Shaw or Crompton. You would, and your team would, on a manifesto of independence and devolved services, not some bullshit, what's it called? Council. Parish council, not some nonsense parish council. You want devolved powers and devolved responsibility. You want genuine resources to inform and shape the future of Shaw and Crompton. And you need to be part of a radical partnership to be able to do that. Which brings me on to Failsworth. Failsworth East, Failsworth West. Last year, in Failsworth East, the Failsworth Independents got 1,700 votes. This year, they got 1,502 votes. They lost 200 votes. But they still won. They destroyed the opposition. But it's interesting. They've lost 200 votes. I find that interesting. I wouldn't just take that victory for granted. I'd be looking at those analytics and wondering, why have we lost 200 votes? In Failsworth West, they got 1,472 last time. This time they got 1,390. Again, they've lost votes. Not as many, but they've lost votes. 2 good wins though. 2 smashing results. Labour are finished. As long as the Failsworth Independence Party can back it up and deliver devolved services. The only way they can back it up and deliver genuine devolved services is by entering into a partnership with the Conservatives, providing the Conservatives stand on a manifesto of devolved services and the township model that I shared with you before the elections. Otherwise, this will just be a fad. And in 2 years or 3 years, Labour will just creep back in. And I say this as a supporter of FIP. But when you stand for something, you've then got to build the infrastructure and the details to be able to deliver it. And I think you will. I think you'll take all 6 next year. I think you will. So the lay of the land, 35 Labour councillors, 2 independents, Aftab in St Mary's and Montaz, who took out a Cartel heavyweight in Coldest, 9 Liberal Democrats, 9 Conservatives, and 5 Failsworth Independents. Majority of 5. Perhaps this time the Conservatives will get their act together and force Oldham Council to hire their member of staff, because as a joint opposition, in terms of 9 and 9, they're entitled to a half-time worker, same as the Lib Dems are. Perhaps if they've got any common sense, they'll also force Oldham Council to sack one of the 2 that the Labour Party have, because the Labour Party have 2 full-time staff paid for by you. They shouldn't have, they should have 1. But some dodgy deal was clearly done. But with the majority of 5, they can't justify 2 at all. And we await to hear who is going to be the leader of Oldham Council and who's going to become the leader of the Conservatives I think those are the two big decisions which will set out what the next 10 months or so before we go into election season for the all-outs. I am as good as done, I think. This was just to bring you all up to speed. I thought it was easier. My crowdfunder still stands at £2,803. If you get there, great. If you don't get there, I'll email everyone who supported me and explain what I plan to do. But it won't be this. See you all later. Please take care, and hopefully I'll see you. Yeah, hopefully I see some of you very soon. Enjoy your Sundays if I don't see you later on. Bye-bye.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.